for coming to this celebration of life. My name is John. I am Doug and Sharon's oldest son, or if you talk to my sister, I am Doug and Sharon's oldest child. That is not true because she is much older than I am, and much shorter. So, let me tell you a little bit about the guy we are going to be celebrating today, because if you knew my dad, you called him Uncle Doug, or Alberta called him the hockey man. A story I just found out that he would play hockey with some kid in the driveway of the, yeah, that's crazy. So let me tell you a bit about the man we're celebrating. I'm very, very proud to be called Al Hollingsworth. My dad was creative when we were little. Sitting at the supper table, I noticed that his knuckles were scraped somehow, and I'd say, "Dad, how did you scrape your knuckles?" And without hesitating, he would look at his knuckles, and he'd look at me, and he'd say, "Got hit by an airplane." And I thought, this man is amazing. Every time I undressed as a kid to get my pajamas on, he would repeat the same rhyme over and over again, so often that I thought, this is what all parents do to all children. I thought every kid heard something like this when they got undressed. My dad would say, "Hubba hubba ping pong, look at Johnny's ding dong." It turns out that was something he made up. And nobody in my grade 9 dressing room recognized it or appreciated it. My dad was a guy that liked to give out nicknames. His father-in-law was the old guy. His wife was Shane or Shaney or Cheryl. She hated that last one. My sister was Tess or Tessica Veronica May. I was Nobby Jack. Todd was Bones or Melvin Milquetoast. Greg was Peanut. Visiting friends were Cyrus or Buddha. My cousins were Mac, Swanee, Burrhead, and Rose. Now I had way more cousins than that, but these are the nicknames that he had. The last one was for my cousin Mary Jo. Mary Jo stayed with us for a while, and he called her Rose, and she took it as a compliment. She said, "Why do you call me Rose?" And he said, "You remind me of the last rose of summer," which she thought was amazing until she found out the last rose of summer is the worst looking rose of the year. It's a wonder he lived so long, really. My dad was a guy who knew how to work hard. It was the winter of 1981, and my dad had recently broken a couple of ribs. So instead of taking it easy, it was a Saturday, and he would always say, "Saturdays are for working." So we got a great big piece of sheet metal, hooked it up to the back of a skidoo, and we were going to go to the back bush to cut some wood. There was 6 inches of snow everywhere. It covered everything. So hop on the skidoo. He reminded me, don't hang on to him because his ribs were hurting. So I'm balancing precariously in the back of this snowmobile with a piece of sharp sheet metal following us quite swiftly. So we get back to the bush. We work all afternoon cutting wood, putting it on this makeshift sled, filled it up, and when Dad saw something that was good and we're done, he'd say, "Good job, well done. Good job, well done." So I knew we were done. So we load up all the wood, hop on the skidoo, I get on behind him, and he guns it. Like, we went really fast until we hit a fence that was submerged under the snow, and it stopped that skidoo instantly. It didn't stop him instantly. he went forward and hit his ribs on the handlebars and doubled over, and I thought, this is it. We are done. We're in the middle of nowhere in the dead of winter, and my dad has just mortally wounded himself. I'm gonna have to eat him to survive. And I don't have any utensils. After 10 minutes of him softly cursing under his breath and directing me on how to untangle a snowmobile tread, we made it safely home. Of course, I had to unload all the wood by myself, and by that time I was hungry. But it's not the first snowmobiling adventure that we had. My dad was a man of adventure. A few years earlier, he decided he didn't have enough kids, so he invited my cousin, Harold John Kelly Swan, to live with us. We just called him John Swan. I don't know why we had both names, but it rhymed and it worked. So he says, we're gonna go feed the cattle at the feedlot. Now the feedlot was down the road, half a mile maybe. So what he said was, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna drive the snowmobile. Nobby Jack, you're gonna get on the back. I want you to face backwards though, because Swanee is gonna be on the toboggan, and I want you to tell me, you holler if he falls off. Okay, so we have our safety procedures nailed down for this trip. Could we have taken the four-wheel drive Ford pickup, driven there in 4 minutes and done the chores? Yes, we could have, but there was no adventure in that. So we started off riding through the fields of snow until we came upon a small lake made of slush and ice water. Wanting to conserve gasoline, Dad decided not to waste time going around the water and instead went straight through it. The plume of ice water coming off the tread was 10 feet high and stretched 20 feet behind the snowmobile. Within that 20 feet was my cousin John hanging onto the toboggan for dear life and getting completely soaked. But John's here today, so obviously he survived. My dad was someone who would do something normal one time. Once and only once. From there, he would figure out how to get a whole bunch of people involved, and then he would change all of the rules. How many people here played 10,000 with my dad? There we go. How many people here played marbles with my dad? There you go. How many people were part of one of Dad's car rallies? So, the annual car rally took place in Watford and Warwick, and it was unlike any competitive car rally anyone had ever joined. It involved getting a whole bunch of people to drive hundreds of miles throughout this township, spending tons of money on gas and answering trivia questions all the way through the trip. You make it back to headquarters and you come in, and the thing that made this different from any other car rally in the world was that once you returned and you started taking up the answers, you quickly realized that every answer was open to discussion and debate. With my dad, there were no solid right answers. Everything was a gray area, so everyone would laugh, eat, and go home. There were no winners. My dad was a dad who always tried new things. Along with several friends, he signed up for the Dale Carnegie course. Part of the curriculum was that every participant had to design and deliver a presentation. His, of course, was the most unique any instructor had ever seen. The title of it was How to Kiss a Duck's Butt. Such a weirdo. Not only did it impress the instructor, but at the very end of the course, he was presented with an award for the most unique speech. The award consisted of the rear end of a mallard mounted on an oak plaque. Most people would take that, maybe let it hang around the house for a couple days and throw it out. Not my dad. It hung in the living room of our farmhouse for the next 20 years. It's a funny story. But imagine bringing a girl back to your house and waiting for the moment she noticed a duck's rear end proudly displayed on the wall where most people have family pictures. I was single for a while. My dad was brave. In 1977, he was the only farmer in Warwick Township with a perm. Thank you, Aunt Nancy. My dad was pretty even-tempered. There were very few ways to get my dad angry. The easiest was by having to go to the bathroom. You see, my dad never pooped during the day. He was either too busy or he was too tired. He would wait until all of us were in bed. And then he would go to the bathroom with a Sidney Sheldon book, 3 comics, and a newspaper, and camp out. And we as children, we knew this. We knew it as a fact, but it didn't help us. In fact, it actually made things worse. It didn't matter that we had pushed every single drop of urine out of our bladders before we went to bed. As soon as we even thought about the fact that the bathroom was now off limits, things got desperate. There was nothing worse than that slow, lonely walk down the stairway in the dark to the bathroom, where we would knock on the bathroom door. And Dad never answered on the first knock. He wanted us to go away. And finally we'd say, "Dad?" And he'd say, "What?" I have to go to the bathroom." And then he'd start swearing under his breath. And suddenly there he was, the bathroom door swung open and he is larger than life with the bathroom light coming behind him. It scared the life out of you. And he'd walk out grumpy and you'd run in, not remembering that he had been in the bathroom for 30 minutes already. It was literally breathtaking. My dad was charismatic. He could talk anyone into anything. If you were attending the Hollingsworth Christmas or any other event, you knew that Uncle Doug was going to approach you and offer you the chance to be in a skit, to be in an ugly sweater contest, to judge the ugly sweater contest, to help with the Dutch auction, to join him in some crazy other idea. In fact, I had only been dating my wife for 2 months when he talked us both into judging a pig calling contest dressed as pigs. He got me and my new girlfriend to dress up as pigs to judge a pig calling contest. And she's still with me today, so I win. My dad was a guy who left a legacy. Everybody that knew my dad says his name with a smile and starts telling a story. Mackie falling into the pool, right? Playing games with the Manders girls, playing hockey. By the way, he never played hockey with me. So apparently there was a cuteness factor in there somewhere. Something crazy and memorable was something that they would always talk about. It was something that my dad did. And every time that happens, the world changes a little bit for the better. Without even trying, my dad left a huge impact on my life, on the lives of everyone he spent time with. We look at things a little differently. We can find the humor in almost every situation. We work hard. We welcome strangers as friends. I almost made it through, didn't I? Dang it. Right now he's laughing at me. Thank you, Dad. We love you. There is a room, this room right now is full of stories about my dad that I would love to hear about. Table over there has, paper if you want to write down stories. But we're gonna have like 3 minutes of open mic right now. Mandy, can you put that on? My daughter's in Australia, and she wanted to start off the open mic. Yep.
How do you manage to say everything you love about a person over the span of one conversation? I have so many awesome memories of Papa, it's hard to know where to start. So I'll start by saying this. Papa had a very diverse skill set and a lot of knowledge to impart to those around him. Like how to buy your first car, how to drive a tractor, how to put the safety lock on your dad's rifle, how to lay your blockage tiles so that nobody knows you're cheating. The list goes on. One thing specifically I love about Papa is that we were never bored when we were around him, mostly because we weren't allowed to be. I remember one time I was hanging out at the farm and I was waiting for Madison to show up, and I confessed to Papa that I was bored. So that went down in history as the day that I not only learned to drive a tractor, but got to practice this new skill set by disking the entire field. Another memory I have of Papa is showing up to his house on Boxing Day. Everyone's getting ready to eat our big Christmas lunch, and Papa calling me over to the side saying, "Em, I need you to go down to the basement and wrap my Christmas presents for me." Something else that stands out to me is Papa's strength of character and his unwillingness to accept anything that isn't quite as good as he thought it should be. For example, I will always be Emma Marie to Papa. Not Emma Noel, always Emma Marie. And I truly believe that somewhere deep inside he thought that if he called me that enough, something illegal would happen with it.